Connell, let's bring in Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, David Daoud, and President and CEO of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America, Michael Makovsky. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you. Michael, if I could just start with you. You know, your group has been calling for regime collapse in Iran. Just so far in this operation, Ayatollah's dead. Dozens of senior leaders are dead. You had Hegseth yesterday saying, you know, we've decimated their navy, their army. How close are we to that point now, you think, of regime collapse?
Well, we're closer than we were a week ago, that's for sure, but the regime is still in charge. I think both the U.S. and the United States done a tremendous job of weakening this regime. But, you know, regimes could still hold on for a long time, so we're not there just yet. And I think what we believe is that the U.S. and Israel just have to keep weakening the regime. But while there could be a couple of different scenarios that we could talk about, you know, ultimately we believe the Iranian people are the ones that are going to have to bring the regime down.
To the point, and David, I'll bring you in on this, about timing. I've been focused, and Marky and I were talking about it a few moments ago, on the ability of the Iranians, even though, you know, everybody knows from the point of view of who has the more military power, they would be, you know, undermanned, trailing the United States and Israel. But their ability to kind of string things out and how that might play into this, using the Strait of Hormuz as a choke point for the global economy, as an example, bringing in other countries. Like here in Istanbul, there was a big headline, well, Turkey might be involved in this yesterday with that missile, or now today, Azerbaijan. Just the ability to kind of get more people concerned and string out the war. How much of a factor do you think that might be?
Well, thank you first for having me on. But this is how the resistance axis has modeled its fighting as far back as I've been tracking, not just Iran, but its proxies. If we look at how the Israelis, Hezbollah fought the Israelis either in 2006, 2024, or even going back in the 1980s to 2000, their fighting strategy, they realize they're confronting much more powerful actors, but there's no conventional parity between them and, say, the United States or Israel. So their strategy has been to engage in a slow erosion process, not of the military of the other side, but of the national will. The longer you can draw out the war, the less popularity it's going to have. And because the countries they're confronting, the United States, Israel, are democracies, the logic goes that over time, the people will lose support for the war and they'll pressure their government to halt the fighting. Now, when it comes to the United States, in the current moment, if you look at resistance axis media and Mayadeen and Manar, I'm focused more on Hezbollah, but this is also reflecting Iranian thinking. They're very much focused on American polling showing minimal support for this war and the way it was conducted. And they're hoping that if they drag out the war, especially the growing isolationist voices on the Republican side are going to weigh more heavily on President Trump's calculations, especially as we're nearing midterm elections, that'll stop him from pursuing his goals in this war prematurely, allowing the regime to survive and rebuild.
And Michael, talking about the goals in this war, you know, we were all listening to Hegseth and General Kane yesterday lay out what they call clear objectives to this mission: dismantle Iran's ability to project power outside of its borders, targeting their ballistic missile systems, annihilate their path to nuclear weapons. What stood out to me is what was not said there, right? Why are they not calling this a regime change war? Is there a strategy to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, President Trump kind of suggested it, a couple of times at the beginning of this operation. But I think the concern about continuing to emphasize that, because maybe we might have to stop before the regime actually collapses, in which case we still want to declare victory. So I think we're being slightly, maybe a little more modest relatively in our objectives. By the way, I do believe that it would still be a very successful operation if we stop before the regime actually collapses. Because I think, as you just mentioned, Secretary Hegseth laid out a lot of still very important objectives, and we seem on our way to achieving those.
Wait. Let me follow up, Michael, on that real quick. Explain more. How would it be, quote unquote, successful if there's still this regime in some form in power in Tehran? How's that a success?
Well, I believe that, if we we haven't really done much on the nuclear facilities that I'm aware of. I mean, I think we've done a little, but if we've done make some progress on further weakening those, if we kind of decimate their missile capabilities, both in the launchers, the missiles, the storage, the materials, the industrial base, the Navy, as you were mentioning, I think if we're basically, in other words, able to really severely degrade this regime's capability of menacing its neighbors and also menacing its own people, which we're also targeting. Certainly I think the Israelis are in particular, those capabilities. I think that would be very successful. Now, it's very hard to game when regimes collapse and you have a sort of a revolution. It might not happen right away. It could happen a bit after the conflict ends. I mean, even the demonstrations that began in late December were almost 6 months after the end of the 12-day war. So sometimes things take a little time, but I think it could still be seen as very successful.
David, let me quickly give you the last word here and just talking about the 12-day war last year. We were all told that Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated those nuclear sites. So how will Americans and the rest of the world rest assured eventually that Operation Epic Fury did the trick?
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by did the trick. Look, when it comes to the Iranian regime, this is an ideologically motivated actor, same with its proxies. If we look at, say, how Hezbollah has been operating over the past year, and from there we can gauge how Iran will operate. There was a ceasefire agreement. They ostensibly even committed to withdrawing their forces from south of the Litani River. But what we can see now is that what they've been doing for the past year is subtly and slowly rebuilding. I think we can assume the same from the Iranian regime. If this regime is left in place, what they will do is wait for a more opportune time, perhaps a new American administration that's less interested for intervention in the Middle East, perhaps a bigger crisis that diverts American attention elsewhere, and then they'll begin the slow process of rebuilding their forces, nuclear, ballistic missiles, their proxies. This is not a regime that is willing to genuinely change course, unfortunately, so long as it remains in power.
David Daoud, Michael Makovsky, gentlemen, thank you for your time and your perspectives this morning. Greatly appreciate it.